Hey, good evening, everybody. It's your man Eric Brown back again. I know it's been some time since I posted here on MOBO-Media, but I'm back at it again. I've had to endure a few things in the past year that I had to overcome, a couple of challenges. But I'm back in the seat. And what a great day today. Today is Veterans Day. Something put it on my heart. Well, God put it on my heart to just hop on here and just do videos. Just do videos about Veterans Day and, some details about veterans that many people may not have been aware of. And so what I want to start with first is I reached out to a family member and asked her to give me a series of questions, some questions. We had planned on doing a live interview, but it just didn't work out. We're in two different locations. So, but more to come on that. But for now, my Aunt Kay has given me a list of questions, and I'm going to go through these questions and talk about not only the answers that she's looking for. I want to be able to educate you on the life of a veteran, as a veteran knows it. And so, I'm gonna get started. The first question she wants to know is, what's the hardest part about basic training? What she means by, for y'all that don't know military service, basic training is where you, pretty much the first location you have to go to their job basically is to transition you from civilian to military life. So their job is to strip you down to a bare man or woman and build you back up again in accordance with their goals and mission and agendas and things like that. And so that's what basic training is. Basic training involves physical components, see how physically fit you'll be for combat. But there's also mental components where they give you a series of tests that kind of make sure you are in the right place. And so they do a damn good job of screening folks coming to basic training. For me, the hardest part of basic training, I think, was, it was shaking loose Fort Worth. I'll be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? I left Fort Worth, man. I had a little a pep in my step, in a sense. You know what I'm saying? I had that walk. I used to call it that bop walk. And there was a guy, one of the leaders. He picked up on that real quick that I still had a little bit of that street in me. So his whole job was to shake it out of me. And this dude used to get in my face, man, and just talk crazy. And I always remember this guy used to always tell me, Brown, get that goddamn bebop out of your step. And sometimes I didn't know I was walking like that, you know what I'm saying? But the hardest part, I think, was trying to, was that transition from coming from Fort Worth, Texas, and getting into, the best military in the world. And so, great opportunities I'll talk about later, but that's the hardest part for me, I think, was that transition. And I'll get more into that with some other videos. The next question she had, my Aunt Kay says, were there times when you wanted to give up? I think maybe it wasn't until years later that I thought about giving up, after I really, they test you and they challenge you and you're exposed to bigger things. And so you got to ask yourself, are you willing to, go through what they're asking you to do? And I'm talking 3 to 4 years later is when I started thinking about, well, maybe it's not for me. And it's not just me. A lot of folks around that time begin to think this way because the Air Force had 4-year enlistments. It starts with 4-year enlistments. And so that's really the time when you have to make up your mind with whether you want to make it a career or not. So, I don't think I ever wanted to give up. I definitely thought about doing something different because I had a different perspective of things. I had gone overseas, lived in the Philippines and all around the world. And so I had a different perspective of things. But little did I know, I was just getting started. So I was not ready to give up. Not yet. Next question she asked, what did your commander do or say to encourage you to stick with it? What did your commander do or say to encourage you to stick with it? So, crazy story. The same guy that focused on me in basic training, he was the highest ranking leader we saw at the time. I mean, we had folks above him, but they were in their offices. He is the one that we had eye-to-eye contact with, direct contact with. So I never forget, man. This guy was brutal with us. He would come in and just tear dorms up and throw washing powder all over and just do the craziest thing, man. Just call you out, you know what I'm saying? But on the last day of basic training, he sat us all down, just sat us all down and just out on the floor in front of me. He had a chair. I still remember this. He said, and what tripped me out is that his whole demeanor changed. He wasn't an a-hole anymore. He wasn't this big, mean, bad, Air Force monster that's trying to change who you are. He actually became human. And he told us this, I'll never forget this. He said, the reason he was so hard on us is because when he gets older, and one day when he's sitting on his front porch in his rocket chair, he looks up and he sees the Air Force plane flying by. He wants to know for sure that he did his thing to make sure it was a success, He wanted to make sure those Air Force planes flying above his head, they were touched by some of the best hands. And so to be the best, sometimes it takes change. And so that's kind of what he was letting us know. He was also getting us ready for the Air Force. There's a lot more to come. And so that's what he did to make me kind of hang with it. It let me know that, that basic training thing, it's like a game. It's a game, but it's not a game. But, it's something that if you don't get through that, you don't get to go into the Air Force. So you got to get through basic training first. Next question she has here. How often are promotions? So within the military, obviously everybody gets paid in the military. You get paid according to how long you've been in. You get paid according to how smart you are. I'll be honest with you. Air Force is unique. It's a unique branch of service because we take tests to make rank. Unlike the other services like the Army, I think, and for my Army veterans out there, no disrespect, I'm just not totally familiar with y'all's rank process and obtaining rank. But I know from what I've been told by my Army peers, they look at everything from the way you wear your uniform to your records, and they actually get you and make you stand before a board, from what I understand. It's a little different in the Air Force. The Air Force, the only time we would stand in front of a board like that, if we were in line to get special promotions or things like that. So for us, promotions often happen, I would say 3 to 4 years. Every 3 to 4 years you get promoted. But then again, it depends on what you want, because if you don't want to get promoted, trust me, you won't get promoted. And time will start ticking because the Air Force has rules and policies in place to make sure by a certain time that you're in the Air Force, you have obtained a certain rank. Because if not, then that means you ain't able to keep up. So they'll get you out of there quick on that. They'll get you out of there quick. So promotions are a great thing. It's just different in how we get promoted in the Air Force if you do it through testing. Next question. She has on here, how did you decide which branch of service is for you? What was it based on? So she's saying, how did I know which branch of service I want to go to, and what is all that based on? So my decision came from my father, who was also an Air Force veteran. And, he had been kind of grooming me later years in high school, probably like the 10th, 11th grade. I kind of remember him start grooming me a bit and talking to me about the Air Force. Keep in mind, he had always talked about the Air Force. He served in the 70s. I think 72 to 76 is when he served. And so, coming up, he's always telling me about the Air Force. But as I got older and it got time for me to make a decision after high school, you started hearing that more and more around the house. It's not like he was saying, hey, you got to go, but he was saying, hey, here's an option. And at that time, school was just not something I was thinking of. And so the Air Force was it. Now, keep in mind also, it's not just up to me which branch of service I get to go into. The Air Force only takes the best. I'm going to be honest with you. Everybody knows the Air Force is the toughest branch of service to get into. And there's a reason for it because of the type of technology we're exposed to, the aircraft, and there's a lot of thinking involved. And so unlike my Army counterparts and Marines, it's combat. It's hardcore combat out there. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of thinking involved too, but it's just a different level of war. It's a different resource for war. With the Air Force, they just call us a bunch of nerds or whatever. And so a lot of Air Force guys actually, now that I think about it, some of my friends, they had gone to college before coming to the Air Force. And they had spent maybe, camera shook, sorry about that. They spent maybe 1 or 2 years in college and decided, come on over to the Air Force. Various reasons, pay. Some may need the extra money. You know what I'm saying? Especially if nothing else is going on. But yeah, you can't just get into the Air Force like that. You gotta take a test to get in. Well, you gotta take a test anyway. ASVAB. ASVAB is the test that all military folks have to take to really what they're doing is picking your brain, in a sense, picking your brain and seeing who you are and how you think. And so depending on that and depending on how you score, that lets you know whether you were allowed to go in the Air Force or not. You had to score pretty high to get into the Air Force. Like I said, there's reason for it because of things we're exposed to, all the technology. And man, Air Force to me at that time, and I'm not knocking my Air Force counterparts, but there were certain aspects of Air Force that it was like being a civilian, you know, especially when you work things like contracting or anything having to do with administration. You know, you have those same type resources in the corporate world. So the only difference is you got a uniform on and you have to follow strict orders, things like that. So the next question, what's the least and most severe punishment for insubordination? She says, what's the least and most severe punishment for insubordination? So first of all, let me make sure that my fellow veterans out there understand that I don't have all the answers. Everybody's experience is different. Okay, I'm only responding to her questions based on my line of sight, the things I've been exposed to in my journey. Everybody's different. Everybody's journey is different. So I want to make sure I put that out there that I don't speak for all veterans. I'm speaking for me today, speaking from my experiences and trying to come at it from the heart. So like she said, what's the least and most severe punishment for insubordination? What she's talking about is basically what's the least and worst punishment you can get for not following orders and not doing what those folks tell you to do. Long story short, you know, if you don't do what those folks tell you to do, what's the least they can do to you and what's the worst they can do to you? Least they could do to you is correct you. Just make an on the spot correction. Get your face or whatever you need to do, or just pull you in the office, talk to you. You know what I'm saying? No paperwork involved. You know, the worst that could happen to you, you go to jail, federal prison, federal prison. Yeah, remember the military is federal now. You're talking about the DoD, Department of Defense. That's federal. Air Force is federal. It's all federal. So anytime done in the military, if you do time in the military, that's federal time. So that's the worst that could happen to you. You know, some would say getting kicked out. Some would say getting kicked out, and I get that. But hell, I'd rather just get kicked out and try to make my way than find myself in prison over something that's, you know, small as insubordination. But they take it very serious because when you're in combat and when you're in a position to follow through with orders, they need to know whether you're gonna be focused on what they're telling you or only on what's in your head, because that's a lot of times that's what insubordination is. You know, you just playing around with stupid stuff in your head instead of doing what these folks tell you to do. And so, yeah, you can go do some federal time for insubordination. Is this immediate removal from service? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. They give you options and opportunities for correction. You know what I'm saying? Because they know you're human. You know, we all come from different backgrounds, different races, different cultures. And so I say they do a damn good job of merging all of these different backgrounds of people into one philosophy and one agenda and one mission and goal. So they do a damn good job of that. But it's not immediate removal from service. Only if immediate removal would be if you did something really hardcore and you really affected the mission. And that's where that jail time come in, you know. But immediate removal from service also means getting kicked out. So if you get kicked out of the military with a dishonorable discharge, let me tell you right now, that's bad paper. That's bad paper. People see that, man. You're not trustworthy. That's a big federal stamp saying this person is not trustworthy at the federal level. So if you ain't trustworthy at the federal level, then in their minds, you're not trustworthy with anyone below them. So you go and try to get a job, fill a job application with dishonorable discharge. Don't get me wrong. Some folks will give you an opportunity. You know, they may give you a chance, but for the most part, you're cut out of a lot of opportunities and benefits with a dishonorable discharge. The next question, if you are, basically what she's saying, if you are a juvenile delinquent if you're a young juvenile delinquent, you've got some trouble when you're young, and you wanted to come into the military, can you have your records expunged? Is there a way around that, And I would say yes, there's always a way. There's always a way. As long as you have the passion for doing right, there's a way. There's a way. So don't think just because you got in a little trouble, that's the end of the world. No, 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 no. No, it's not the end of the world. Oftentimes that's a test. It's a test, and the good Lord is putting you through it because He know you're gonna go through it eventually, and you see how you come out on the other end of it. So if you're young, you got some trouble in the military, it's not automatic boot. But now there are certain things that are barred to military service. You got a felony, you ain't coming into the military. Other things can cause you not to come into the military: failed drug tests, psychological issues, just physical. You're not physically fit. Just there's all types of different things. And a lot of times there are medical conditions that you don't even know you have until you sign up for the military, and then they take you through the medical process, and then they find out, oh, did you know you had sickle cell? And you're like, what? And so different things like that, man, they'll catch early on. But if you're a delinquent, never give up. Never give up. You're in my mind. If you don't make mistakes, you're not gonna learn. I've made a lot of mistakes. Trust me, a lot of mistakes, and we're gonna talk about those. But those mistakes were pivot points for me. It caused a fork in the road when I made those mistakes. It's, on the other side of the mistake, you want to go left, you want to go right. It's up to you. But there's always a way. Just don't ever give up. And the last question, and this is one I threw in here. Do you have any regrets? Do you have any regrets, military service? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I can remember when I was young, first coming to the military, my first or second year or something like that, you would hear that older gentlemen, older veterans that had been in a while, they would always talk about they had no regrets. After a certain point of serving, they had no regrets. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with having regrets because sometimes the military is just not for everybody. But I had no regrets, man. I think that, I think my father, first of all, Raymond, for introducing me to the Air Force, and I also thank the Air Force for introducing me to professionalism. And so all in all, I came out better on the other end of it. So I have no regrets. I encourage any young person out there, if you're not doing anything else with your life out there, consider military service. Consider military service. A lot of challenges, but a lot of benefits post-service. And so with that, I'll end this. This is just the first of a lot of videos, and trust me, y'all see, probably do 20 videos tonight. But this is just the first, and I just asked my aunt to give me a few questions to kind of get me going. And I like these questions. These are really good questions. And some of these questions I'm going to speak to in other videos as well. And so this is great. Thank y'all so much. This is Eric Brown, MOBO-Media. I'm back. I am back. And come on, take a ride with me. Bye-bye.